Funding for the production of Folks is made possible in part by a grant from Union National Life Insurance, serving Louisiana and the South since 1926, a family-managed corporation providing whole life insurance.
Straight ahead on Folks, are there deliberate steps being taken by predominantly white school boards to resegregate school systems around the state? Is racism the real cause of the black community's dissatisfaction with education in Louisiana? Some people in Caddo and St. Landry parishes seem to think so, and we're going to hear their points of view today. We'll also talk to Larry Bannock of New Orleans, chief of the Golden Star Hunters. He'll tell us the history of his tribe of Mardi Gras Indians, all on a season premiere of Folks. Hello everyone and welcome to Folks. I'm Sonya Masingale. Today marks the beginning of our 7th year on LPB. We're excited about our new season, and in between vacation breaks this past summer, we've been on the road gathering some fascinating people and topics for our fall season. So let's get started. It was a long, hot summer in Louisiana this year. We saw two unrelated but similar incidents happen on each end of the state. Both involved the black community in opposition to local school board attempts to declare their school systems racially unitary and throw off the scrutiny of the federal courts. First, we joined marchers from St. Landry Parish on their 60-mile walk from Opelousas to the steps of the state capitol in Baton Rouge to protest alleged racism by the St. Landry Parish School Board. Just a few days later, protesters paraded around the Caddo Parish School Board to voice their opposition to a proposal that would declare the school system racially balanced. Let's take a look now at the two situations. In what they believe to be an event of historical importance, over 200 people from St. Landry Parish marched 60 miles from Opelousas to the state capitol in Baton Rouge along Highway 190. The march was staged to protest alleged racial discrimination by the St. Landry Parish School Board decision to locate 2 of 3 parish schools in predominantly white areas.
Our major goals basically is the injustices that were done stemming from the March 19th decision in St. Landry Parish. It is of a parish-wide deal, and it's only that the board seat happens to be in Opelousas School Board office. But because of those decisions that came down March 19th, we felt that those decisions did a great injustice to us as a black people because of the attitudes that went along with those decisions.
Really, we hope to call to the attention of the state of Louisiana the problems that exist in the state. Many people are not aware of the many problems that exist in the state, be it economic racism, be it just plain old racism, be it social racism, whatever the case may be. We hope to generate support across the state of Louisiana that we can end the problems which started, I would say, back in 1980 with the election of President, what's his name?
With temperatures peaking in the 90s and rain clouds threatening to drench them at any moment, the marchers of all ages made their way along the highway at a surprisingly rapid rate. How does it feel to be out there on the road?
Great. It really does feel great. This is a historical event as far as St. Landry Parish, as far as the state. And they know that we have a group of strong-willed people. And the closer we get, the determination is stronger, and the feelings are stronger, and there's no letting go.
Tiring but exciting, spiritually lifted. I was thinking this morning as I was marching that for me it's almost a powerful retreat. because each day we start off with a prayer service, then we have mass daily, plus we have rallies at night with talks and an opportunity to fellowship with people. So I think it's not as tiring as you would think, but it's just exciting to be part of history in the making. That's the thing I feel is so exciting.
Only, I'd say, uncomfortable thing has been the humidity. The humidity is rather high, and that created a few problems. But we didn't encounter any dehydration from any of the marches, but that was the major problem.
What you see here is the second day of the march from Port Barre to an intermediate stop at Krotz Springs St. Anthony Catholic Church for Mass and rest before continuing to Livonia.
My presence as a priest, first of all, is a presence of trying to show people the sign that the church also is involved in the fight for justice and peace. Apart from that, I see it mainly as an opportunity to once again to mobilize the black community, to let the black community know that we need to continue to come together. We need to stay on the battlefield, that life is a process of one struggle after another.
The march culminated in a rally on the steps of the state capitol in Baton Rouge. There were over 1,000 present.
Your problem may not be identical to mine, but we all have problems in our school boards, and they all stem from the fact that our skins are not the same color as theirs. We have to come together. Racism has to be attacked. It has to be attacked from every direction. And if we're going to do that and be successful at doing so, we are going to have to join hands and work collectively in order to eradicate this evil sickness from our land.
In a scene reminiscent of the turbulent 60s, protesters paraded around the Caddo Parish School Board to call attention to their stand on the proposal that would declare their school system unitary. They believe that blacks are not getting equal treatment from the school board. Larry English, NAACP president and one of the organizers of the protest marches, explains.
We blacks still do not have the economic power to go out and spend $100,000 on a PR campaign to get our message across. We have to use our resources in our community. And I don't think that we've grown so sophisticated as a people that we still can't put on the blue jeans and the tennis shoes and go out and do a little old-fashioned protest. And I think that is a viable tool still, that's still viable in the 80s, and that when appropriately used, it can help to draw attention to your issue, to the issue that you are stressing. And so that was the motivating reason, was just simply to get the community, aware of what was happening to the school system. We didn't think that we were going to change anybody's mind. We didn't think that we were going to prohibit the school board from filing the motion. We knew we were going to go through with that. That was PR. That was something that we used to generate some attention to the issue. I think it worked.
The NAACP is one of the 4 separate groups representing residents in Caddo Parish that filed objections in federal court stating that the board has not met the demands of the consent decree.
Our concern is that there are numerous schools within the school system that do not come up to the standards that we feel should be providing quality education to children in the parish. We find it ironic that they could find only one particular school in the inner city that did not come up to snuff. We think there are presently about 35 one-race schools in the parish, and our point is that how can a system be declared unitary with that high figure one-race schools?
When the motion was made to file for unitary status, the school board was clearly divided along racial lines, with the white members voting in favor of the motion and black members against.
Looking at the school board vote now, as you know, the Caddo Parish School Board is made up of 12 members, 8 whites and 4 blacks. Of those who voted to declare the Caddo Parish school system unitary, you had a split, a racial split. You had the 8 whites voting to declare it, and you had the 4 blacks voting to oppose it.
At this point, the school system, the 12-member board, feels that we have done the things required by that consent decree. Part of that consent decree also said that there was a procedure to follow when we felt like that we were in compliance and had done what we said we were going to do. We are following that course now by appealing to the court and asking that they find that we are in compliance with the decree and that we have done what we said we would do in 1981.
Anytime you have all of one kind, there's a problem. There's a red flag, especially when you're getting federal and state funds, public funds, to support that one segregated class, if it's all black or all white. So if you look at that situation and you look at the papers and you look at the data that the school system has provided, where you have 99% blacks at one school and 99% white at another school, there's a problem, a serious problem.
The U.S. Justice Department attorney has filed his official response to the board's motion for unitary status. There were some comments made by the attorney for the Justice Department, and one of them was that he had investigated the complaints by black citizens that the school board engages in racially discriminatory hiring policies, but he said nothing was found to support those allegations. Would you care to comment on that?
Well, I take opposition to that. I take opposition because I know for a fact that there are blacks who are qualified to teach in the school system and who have passed the NTE and other requirements that the school board has established, and they are not hired.
The school board superintendent maintains that the board has complied with the consent decree, although there are still some problem areas to be dealt with, such as the hiring of black teachers and the placement of black principals.
Caddo Parish, as well as other school systems in the state of Louisiana, simply have had problems getting enough black teachers that meet those certification requirements. In Caddo, we have employed every black that we can recruit or that has made application in Caddo that meets the employment criteria. And we don't do that with white teachers. So we actively are seeking black applicants and black teachers to come into Caddo. But even so, it's still true that the number of black teachers has decreased while the number of white teachers has increased because we simply don't have enough black applicants that meet the employment criteria. Of course, we know the reason for that is that there are not that many students, particularly minority students, going into teacher education training programs. The ones that finish the colleges in education, business and industry simply can pay better pay than we can.
What will happen if this consent decree is done away with? How will that change things?
From the superintendent's standpoint, we will continue to try to help those students that need help the most. And that's been one of the things the Caddo school system has worked on, is improving learning experiences for all students. Our dropout rate is lower than any other parish in the state. Our graduation rate is higher. We are graduating 78% of our students. For the state of Louisiana, it's about 55%. For the nation, it's about 70%. So we feel good about the number of students graduating. However, we're not satisfied with that. Even with a 78% graduation rate, it means 1 in 4 of those high school students do not graduate. Now, they're not all minority students, but a number of them are. We've got to find more ways to be more effective with all students.
The Justice Department attorney said that the schools are legally desegregated in most respects, but pointed out that there are more improvements to be made. Some community members, as well as school board members, think that that is an understatement of the facts.
I said, look, we are not unitary. I said, because number one, we don't have any black principals on the other side of 7th Street. You know, no black principals, and predominantly, you know, all white schools south of 7th Street. And I'm saying that the program, the curriculum that we have in the school system are different. They're different in the black than the white. You know, we got a problem with that, you see.
At the time of this broadcast, the federal court judge has not made a decision. The black community is optimistic but cautious.
I'm prepared to let the lawyers deal with it if that's what it's going to take. But I would like to see us sit down, the NAACP, the school board, all the other parties who have filed objections to this motion, to sit down with the Caddo Parish School Board and let's work this thing out. This thing was originally filed when I was 10 years old. It's been in court 22 years now. And we think that is simply too long to be fighting over issue of this nature. It is continually dividing the community. So our position is that, look, let's take it. It's like a divorce. You don't want to go to court unless it's absolutely necessary. It's best the husband and the wife sit down and settle this. And we're all family up here in this city. This is one city, and we all consider ourselves family. So we're saying, let's not take it to court. Let's sit down and maybe try to decide it out of court and save ourselves a lot of money, save ourselves a lot of time, and maybe a little, you know, the rift won't be so wide.
And at this point, I am very sure that the judge, being the honorable judge that he is going to scrutinize the documentation, and he is going to rule in the light of the letter. I don't know about his spirit and my spirit.
A few weeks ago, a federal court declared the St. Landry Parish school system unitary. At the time of this broadcast, the Caddo Parish situation has not been resolved. Joining me in the studio today to help us understand the impact of these allegations are Mr. Charles Renaud, the Vice President of Citizens United for Better Education, or CUBE, in Opelousas, and State Representative Alphonse Jackson from District 2 in Shreveport. Welcome to folks.
We're pleased to be here.
Thank you.
Very
I'm glad
happy to be here.
I'm glad to get you both here at the same time. First of all, I'd like to get an update from each of you on the situations in your parish. What's happened since we were there last in Caddo? Mr. Jackson.
Well, the Caddo Parish School Board filed a motion to have the school system declared unitary. 4 different groups filed motions objecting to the motion filed by the school board for 3 basic reasons. First of all, number 1, the consent decree as it relates to hiring black teachers and promoting black principals and the assignment of black principals leaves a lot to be desired as it relates to carrying out the mandates of the consent decree. Secondly, the one-race schools have not been enhanced qualitatively according to the mandates of the consent decree. And thirdly, the special programs recommended in the consent decree for Booker Washington and the Fair Park School were negated by action of the school board by placing these same programs in predominantly white schools that they call magnet schools. So we think that black youngsters locked in to the central city will be denied equal opportunities educationally because of the malfeasance of the Caddo Parish School Board and the central office staff.
Okay. And the federal court judge in that area has not made a decision one way or the other at this stage?
The motions are pending. Our lawyer asked that evidentiary hearings be held, and the judge has not decided on that. Our lawyer filed briefs on the 3 points I just enunciated, and hopefully if the hearings aren't held to consider oral arguments, that the briefs will be considered by Judge Stagg, who will hear the case as the sitting judge for that federal judicial district.
Mr. Renaud, since this summer and the declaring of the school system unitary, what's happening in St. Landry Parish?
Well, since the system has been declared unitary, the board has proceeded to implement the consolidation plan. However, they are finding some difficulty in selling the bonds at this stage of the game. But they are proceeding to implement the plan, which will give St. Landry Parish 2 predominantly black schools, 3 predominantly black schools, and 3 predominantly white schools. And here the judge has declared this system unitary, and you will have racially identifiable schools in the parish.
It seems that getting the two of you here together today, maybe you can learn something from each other. Have you considered making official objections in terms of taking it to court?
Well, right now, we have filed suits with the Fifth Circuit again. Our suits had been previously thrown out, but we have filed again. And hopefully we can learn from the Caddo situation, and Caddo can learn from some of the mistakes maybe we've made in St. Landry Parish. Because after all, this whole thing, it's about educating young people. And the quicker we can get on with that process, the better it'll be.
This seems to be happening all over the state. It's not just Caddo and St. Landry Parish. I want to make that clear, that it is happening everywhere, that many of our school systems are trying to get out from under federal court scrutiny. Even here in Baton Rouge, there are some things going on with our school board. Why do you suppose, Mr. Jackson, that this is happening right now, this year?
Well, I think that there are four basic reasons. First of all, the Justice Department under this administration, headed by Ronald Reagan, is not the strong ally that Justice Departments have been in the past. And so I think that white school boards and white superintendents take solace from the fact that the government is going to almost be on their side, and that is true in Shreveport as it relates to the government's position in responding to the Caddo motion. Secondly, I think that there is a resurgence of racism in this nation all over, and I'm glad you pointed out that this is not peculiar to St. Landry and Caddo Parish. Thirdly, I think that the black community went to sleep after some of the gains that we made and felt that everything was going to be all right, and we counted on white folk acting in our best interest when we should have continued to apply pressure and to push for equal and wholesome and appropriate education experiences for all of the children of all of the people. And thirdly, because of economic situations and white folk returning to the school system who can no longer afford to put their youngsters in private schools, they are applying pressure on conservative board members to resegregate the school system and deny the forward and necessary thrust of democratizing the school systems all over this nation.
If you stole my question. I was going to quote Civil Rights Commissioner Mary Frances Berry, who said exactly the same thing. She said,
Mary Frances Berry is a good friend of mine, and we have spoken about this many years ago, and her position is right on target as it relates to racial violence and racial feelings, negative racial feelings, all across this nation, emanating from the posturing of the White House.
Well, let me say that the superintendent in St. Landry Parish refused to talk to me, but in Caddo Parish, the white school board members and the superintendent looked me dead in the eye, and they said by no means do they plan to resegregate the school system or to take away any of the gains that blacks made in the years past. They simply wanted the federal courts off of their backs. What kinds of tangible evidence are we going to have to produce in order to get the courts to be responsive to the black community situation?
Well, I think that we're going to have to move on all fronts. I applaud the demonstrative for action in St. Landry, and we did some similar things in Caddo Parish. I think we have to pursue our remedies in the court. We have to organize fair-minded, freedom-minded people in the several parishes affected by the actions of conservative boards of education. And we have to engage in the political process and try to change what is happening in the White House, what's happening in local boards of education, and see if we can't get superintendents that are educational statesmen who will recognize that it is in their best interest to educate well all of the children in that particular parish.
Our time's running short, but I want to thank both of you for coming here today. Wish you luck in the future, and you can be assured that folks will be following the situations as the year goes by. If you've ever seen Mardi Gras in New Orleans, you've probably seen the black Mardi Gras Indians in their colorful costumes. What you probably didn't know is that these marching clubs are part of the unique folk culture, and the people involved spend hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars to create these Indian costumes that are only worn 2 or 3 times. Our next feature introduces us to Larry Bannock, chief of the Golden Star Hunters, who tells us something about the lives and rituals of the Mardi Gras Indians.
Nobody really knows the exact way it started, but the old timers say it started because blacks intermarried with the Indians, and out of respect that the Indians were the only people that really accepted us, that we started intermarrying, so this is where the Indian thing started. I think, to me, one of the greatest feelings on Mardi Gras Day is when you pass an old person. You're like, they can't get out and see you or something, nothing, but when you pass them, and like if you go up to them and you let them see it up close and they get to touch it, it look like it does you all the good in the world, you know? It's a feeling that you can't really explain to someone unless they're into it. I mean, when you look at this Indian suit and you say to yourself, it's like a little child on Christmas morning. When you wake up, you see all your presents and your gifts. Christmas don't mean nothing to me. Regular holidays don't mean nothing to me. But my birthday and Mardi Gras, and this year by Mardi Gras being on my birthday, February 16th, I mean, I feel like the president should just make it a national holiday. You're sewing. Your hands are all blistered. You know, the needle points got your hand all messed up. Your hands are pus coming out of them. You know, and you're looking at your time. Everything is built up from October to Mardi Gras Day. It's nothing but Indian. When you meet another chief, you look at him. And after you look at him, you see how pretty he is, you know, and you evaluate it the way you want. Then you go into this thing where you holler, Big Chief Golden Star, whoa! I'm the big chief from Olive and Pine, don't mind dying. I'm the big chief that walked through thunder, walked through rain, jumped over the St. Louis cemetery fence, balked that thunder, rolled that lightning, made death wonder. And you're constantly playing, but as you're talking to him, you're moving around. And when you finally decide you done played with him enough, you step back 3 steps. And you start opening up, or some people call it undressing. And after you start undressing, you start raising up pieces and showing parts of your suit. And after you done showed them all of your suit and you done undressed, then you step back and holler, whoa!
You can meet Chief Bannock and see some of his creations at the Louisiana Folklife Festival in Baton Rouge on October 10th and 11th. And that's it for this week's program. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to tune in next week for another edition of Folks. Bye-bye.
Funding for the production of Folks is made possible in part by a grant from Union National Life Insurance, serving Louisiana and the South since 1926, a family-managed corporation providing whole life insurance.